What's up guys, we are finally back from another video. What I want to do in this video is just give a quick recap of what happened during the AMA, how I felt about it, how some of the questions were interpreted, what clarifications we got from Forex, and there's a few pieces of alpha that got dropped in here. So I wanted to give you a recap. I know some of you guys probably haven't had a chance to watch the 2.5 hour AMA. If you haven't, I recommend doing it, even if you need to put it on like 1.5 speed or 1.25, that certainly helps sometimes. But if you just straight up won't have the opportunity to do that, then you can certainly watch it here. On this video, I'll give a recap of some of the major points that happened. Like I said, how I felt about it was definitely an interesting experience. So going into this AMA, I was like, man, how am I going to deal with this? Like, everyone kind of runs it the same, and I know that Forex has a lot of different AMAs that are going to come out, from now until probably the next, couple months. So I'm thinking, how can I do it a little bit differently, just so mine doesn't sound like everyone else's? It took me a little while to figure out how to process it because it's not like a normal flow. Forex is gonna, once he gets an idea in his head, he's gonna lay it all out there until he gets his thought out, right? So he's a hard man to ask questions to because his answers are really thorough, and sometimes, if you just want like a 2-second answer, he's gonna give you the full background and paint the picture of it. So that brings a little complexity when you're doing an AMA with a guy like this. We all know Forex is like a mad scientist, so he's got a lot going on upstairs and he wants to make sure that everyone can understand it. And so he deep dives into stuff. So I racked my brain a little bit, and then finally I had to make a call of what direction I wanted to take it. So what I did is I just treated it like a business meeting. I figured, hey, what would I do for a normal business meeting? And the fact is I would build a deck and I would go through the slides. I would try to get as many questions that I wanted answered. And I would try and do it in a flow that made sense to others. I know outside parties are gonna come to try to watch the AMA, and if they don't know a ton about drip, then they're gonna get lost if we go straight into dogs crediting or get right into the weeds too early. So what I wanted to do was go through a flow. So that's what I did. Thank you guys who liked and subscribed. Subscribers have gone up a ton. We just hit 4,000, so congratulations to the full community that watches the channel and everything. I think that's a cool milestone, of course, for me, but also we do this for the community. I will say that first thing on the AMA Forex mentioned is, hey, I was checking out your channel and it looks like you have amazing engagement, especially in relationship to how many subscribers you have. And we've only got about 4,000 subscribers, but right now, lately, we've been getting 3,000 to 4,000 views per video, hundreds of likes, a couple hundred comments. So in general, it shows how strong the community is because the community support is amazing. So thank you to you guys. As you know, you guys see other people's channels who have, 12, 13, 14, 15,000 subscribers, but they're only getting a fraction of the views that we have. So thank you guys for being a really strong community. It helps me out a ton. It makes this whole thing worthwhile. And that was cool for Forex to call that out. But anyway, let's get into it. Why don't I go through the deck in the way that I went through it during the AMA? And what I'm going to do is I'm hoping that it'll just jog my memory and I'll be able to hit some of the key points that Forex hit, talk about the flow, talk about my thoughts on it, kind of how I feel on it now. So if you guys are good with that, let's rock it. So I started the AMA off with this screensaver. Listen, if you haven't watched the AMA, or if you did watch it and you noticed the volume was messed up in the first little bit, I'm sorry about that, guys. We tested that for hours. I was working with Drip.community on a couple things one day, and we decided to do like a little test live stream. And in that little test, we found like some internal software issues. So what I had to do was turn off like some internal settings here, and then we got everything adjusted, and then it was fine. Like I said, we did a little test live stream. We hung out, chatted about live. Thank you, Lee over at Drip.community. He's become a really good friend of mine, and he's an absolute asset to the space and the community. But anyway, we tested it. Everything sounded perfect. So I'm like, cool, in a few days when I have this AMA, everything's gonna go flawless. Not the case. So the issue is there was an internal software issue. I had to basically shut off my control over what his volume was in order for there not to be an echo. So when we did the test run, it was perfectly loud enough. Both voices sounded good. Everything was cool. We figured we were good. But if I turned back on the setting to turn his volume up, which I did about 10 minutes in, and then you guys heard it was like super loud, then what happened is it was creating an echo. So it sucks when you're live and you're doing that because I don't want to cut his audio off and shut everything off and kill the live stream. So I'm over here tweaking. I think you can like hear me typing and messing with stuff. I'm tweaking with the settings to try to get it to work right, but being real careful about it to make sure that I don't shut him off. So eventually what I had to do is I had to tweak my settings to be able to get his volume up. It was causing an echo, and then I would have to hard reset my mic, on the mute on my mic for the echo to be eliminated. And then when I needed to talk, I would hard reset it. So anyway, it was super frustrating. And there was one time where Forex was like, hey, did you drop off? I'm sitting here talking. I must have clicked it twice when I hit it. So I'm sitting here rolling out my thoughts. And so just some frustrations of things that go on live. It is very difficult to run a live stream and then also run Telegram voice chat. As you guys know, Telegram voice chat boots people off, resets. I mean, it leaves a lot to be desired, I should say. But it's completely anonymous, and so people like it for that reason. And of course, Forex and team, they use the voice chat all the time. So again, I apologize that there were volume issues, but I rest assured we got it sorted. If we ever do another one, I'll know exactly how I need to work it. But it's safe to say it's a little more complicated than just adjusting the volume here. Anyway, guys, sorry about that. I digress. So I was cruising through the deck. First off, I hit the timeline. I just said, hey, wanted to make sure all this stuff was correct. September 15th, between now until September 15th, we were going to see a new Animal Farm landing page, new Animal Farm UI, dogs crediting is going to go live on the old site, and then the full-scale marketing campaign. So he confirmed that this was correct and kind of deep dove into it a little bit. This stuff's still on track as well. So if you guys are, trying to debate the timeline, as far as we know, this is about when this stuff is going to land. And I do believe him here. I think we're good here. I think Animal Farm, of course, will go live on the 18th. I think 2 weeks later, I really do think Dogs of Fortune and the new Drip UI will come out. And then this is where it kind of gets iffy. Like, Scratchy's going to be a lot of work to roll out in just the right way. There's a lot of moving parts there, and he's got a lot on his plate already. So we'll see exactly when this comes out, and then this stuff will, of course, will come out later. It's a lot of work. So in the end, as investors, of course, we want it now, but we got to let the man work. We got to let his team work. But as it sits right now, all the immediate stuff on the timeline looks good. And then, of course, I went into the agenda. This 500 is in regard to the 500 consecutive days the drip is up and running, paying out 1%. I set it up in this specific way because I thought this would be a flow that made sense to me. This is kind of just how my brain works. I thought, hey, listen, if you're running some marketing and new people are going to YouTube to try to get more education and they see a recent AMA, they're going to start watching. And if you're talking about stuff that's way too complicated right up front, then you're going to lose them and they're going to move on. So what I wanted to do was get Forex to explain just a basic explanation of drip and then a basic explanation of the Animal Farm. I wanted then to talk about the new user interfaces because those are super rad, a little bit about the internal team and moving through the delays, talk about marketing, basically talk about him taking over the world, and then just some general Q&A pretty much after this. That's kind of how it flowed. It started out here where we talked about drip and Animal Farm, and I wanted to make sure because I think when people look into drip and they watch all our videos and everything looks super rad and we're stacking up our balances and it's paying out 1% per day in drip tokens, people are thinking, man, if this price goes up, this is just way too good to be true. So what I wanted to have Forex do is talk about Drip Network in general and then reference the sustainability and talk about why it's sustainable. So he deep dove on that. If you need an answer that specifically covers why Drip Network is going to continue to work and be sustainable, that's in the first few minutes of the AMA. And I don't think the man's going to be able to lay it out any clearer than that. So that makes me feel really confident. Chalk one up to Forex because that was a really good answer. And I think it helped a lot of people. Right after that, we moved over to the Animal Farm. What I wanted him to do here is just discuss the basic concept for the Animal Farm, why it was created and what it does. Now here he talked a little bit about what it does and the functionality, but he also talked about the game theory and the mindset behind it. So as you guys should know already if you're watching my channel, but if you're new, you may not know. Animal Farm is the theme is based on a George Orwell book. And in a nutshell, the animals on the farm are being mistreated. Eventually they take over the farm, and that new sense of ownership makes them feel good and like they're contributing. So the productivity of the farm goes way up because the animals are now the owner of the farm. So same concept here. Rather than being mistreated by the man, us as the investors are the owners of the farm. We're the ones that actually get paid out on the dividends. And that's why the farm was created, to give back. And it's the only farm of its kind that I know of where we, as the investors and as the workers on the farm, if you will, are the ones benefiting from the production that we're doing. So I thought that was pretty major. Again, that's in the first few minutes. I wanted to paint it that way so people got a really clear picture of what Drip and Animal Farm are and then what functionality they will have going forward. After that, I moved on and talked a little bit about the UIs. So I asked him a bunch of questions, but I did ask him if we're going to see this before the 15th, and he said likely. He said that this would probably be done in a couple days, so that's around today, you know, maybe over the weekend, so there's a chance that we could maybe see this on Monday, a couple days early. As you guys know, I'm extremely excited about this. It's just very professional looking. I do have some high net worth individuals that I have showed drip before, and they've kind of shirked it off because it doesn't look very professional. If you're taking a professional investor from a professional investing website that they already use and taking them over to this, and there's not much of a difference, there's a comfort level for them. And I think that is really important. So for me, the aesthetics really change the dynamic of the investment. I'm able to take people who are really successful in the general financial world, bring them over to DeFi, and show them what the new cutting edge technology is. So for me, I'm a huge fan of the new UI. I did ask like, hey, what we're going to see, because like Piggy Bank, an example, when the things are locked up, it's showing you your max payout like in truffles. It's hard to read. I can't tell what that is. Certainly not in dollar terms, but not even in like LP terms. So it's hard to tell how much I'm benefiting from that. So to answer that, Forex said that there's going to be a bunch of new dashboards that are going to be added to the new UI. And they're going to give you all those different metrics. It's going to tell you market cap, circulating supply, pigs burn since launch, and a bunch of other metrics. So you're going to be able to look at that and see how your investment is really doing, and it's going to look professional like this. So I thought that was awesome. He said that the professional layout is so we can monitor our investments accurately, and for me, that's exactly what I need. He did talk a little bit about the landing page that would go to this. So the landing page sounds pretty cool. It's going to have like mission and vision and all that stuff on there. So it'll help people educate people. Can't talk today. It will help educate people about the ecosystem and why it's there and all that. And then he also said that he's going to have like these pre-recorded interviews on there with Forex and a female interviewer that'll explain the platform so they can watch this and get acclimated to what it's all about. So we knew most of that stuff was coming, but we didn't have this level of detail. So I'm super excited about it. It seems like they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And I really think that those things, while they may seem simple to other people, will really help onboard new users. And ultimately, that's what you want to do. You want to bring new people into investment. Tesla stock, they want more buyers. Microsoft, they want more buyers. That new company, Boxable, that makes the tiny houses, they want more buyers. Investments don't go up unless new people come in. And that's what we want. That's what we want to make it easy. So I thought that was a good way to answer it. After that, we moved on to the new drip UI. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I did ask him, hey, are we going to see similar stuff? Are we going to see a landing page? And he said we are. So we're going to see a similar landing page, the animal farm one on the drip one, but we won't see that until probably November 1st. But I do think that's super important. You got to be running people from marketing to a great landing page that's going to help educate them and make them want to click and go to the next step. Once they get to the next step, then you got to educate them a little bit more, and you got to get them down that pipeline, down that funnel, if you will, until you get them to the point where they're entering a credit card or setting up a MetaMask and all that. You got to get all the way through the flow to be able to make a deposit. It's a challenging space to be in. So Forex and his marketing team really have a lot of work cut out for him because it's tough to educate people all the way down that path. But from what I've heard, and I do have a background in marketing, so I sort of know what I'm talking about, at least a little bit, the flow that they're utilizing and some of the additional steps that they've gone through to educate and paint the picture and the way they're making everything look is the correct way to do things. So if they're throwing a nice fat marketing budget behind it, which they are, then it's going to be really successful. Both sites will have educational materials on there, which is something that a few people in the community asked me to ask about. And we got some alpha dropped about the marketing budget. So I asked him specifically, what is the marketing budget for the first 30 days? He said between $150,000 and $200,000 in marketing. And he said that we can continue to maintain that because of the collateral rehypothecation. So that doesn't come out of the funds that we're using. That comes out of the funds that the animal farm is making on the back end. And then we can continue to spend $200,000 a month on marketing, which is mind blowing. No one in the DeFi space is doing this. Please tell me anybody out there that's spending money at this level on marketing. I think Richard Hart may be spending some money on marketing, but it's not like this. It's not targeted because their new system isn't all set up yet. At some point he will be, and I'm sure he ran marketing to get people into the sacrifice phase and all that type of stuff. But no DeFi project right now is doing any type of marketing like this, and spending $150,000 to $200,000 a month is amazing. I do marketing for a company right now that spends about $150,000, maybe a little more, $1,000 per month. So a similar budget. And we get we get impressions wise, 30, 40, 50 million impressions per month. So that's you getting your stuff in front of other people's eyes. Now, if your content is quality, enough people click, you have a good click-through rate. At that next stage, after they've seen the ad and they actually get to the landing page, if that landing page is awesome, then you get another click and you move them on to the next stage. And the idea is to move them down that funnel until they eventually want to invest, or at least educated enough that if they wanted to, they could. So believe me when I say this, because I'm familiar with marketing budgets and how this will work. Millions and millions and millions of people will see ads and will see other marketing materials about drip in the animal farm over the next month or two. A lot of those people jump over to YouTube to get more education. They're going to be watching all these videos like this one. And a solid percentage of those people will invest and want to get into the ecosystem. This is cutting edge stuff. And this is the first time drip will probably break into the mainstream, or drip and animal farm will break into the mainstream of DeFi. There's going to be a point here in the next few months, and maybe by the end of the year, when normal crypto people are talking about DeFi, when they never knew what it was before, and that'll be because of the marketing from Drip and Animal Farm. So be prepared for that. I'm calling it now. It's going to happen. Next, I moved on to the internal team. So the internal team, I just wanted to let you know, talk to him a little bit about the issues that he had. I didn't really want to hash on the issues a little bit. I think he went on the defense a little bit on this one, and wanted to talk through those issues. I was kind of already over it, and I know a lot of you guys were. My main thing was two things. One, I think the project is almost flawless, besides the delays, but that's going to happen. The project is almost flawless. The only thing that I think could maybe take this thing down at some point would be some disgruntled dev writes some crazy code and ends up putting us in a bad spot. Forex calmed all those fears. He went into why that's not possible. They're open source contracts. They're immutable. There is no chance of a disgruntled dev causing any issues down the road. So that made me feel really good. And he basically told us that he thinks he's got the right team dialed in for the foreseeable future. So I know a lot of people wanted me to ask that question, and I wanted the answer to it too. I just wanted to feel a little more comfortable about it. But I think Forex nailed that one, and I feel really good about the security of the platform, the quality of the code, and that Forex has the correct team, the dream team, if you will, dialed in for the future, and that we're in good hands. So super excited there. I feel like that was clarification that the community needed, and he gave it to us. Next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about just some of the delays and timing the market. You got people all over the spectrum on this question. Some people think that he intentionally paused the farm to shake out weak hands and all that. All of us with good sense know that that's nonsense. There was a botter that attacked the Piggy bank. They did have to redo the whole pigs contract. Everything was getting back on track, and then bam, Pancake Swap threw us the curveball, and they changed the way they do the syrup pools. So we had to hold everything up for that. Now, he did say the dev that he actually put on that is one of the ones that were causing the delays, so that spread that out a little bit. My question to him was, because you had all those delays naturally happening, were you also watching the market tanking going, well, let's just spend more time developing? The question was really were you timing the market in a way on some of this? His answer in a nutshell was basically no. That with the delays and stuff and some of the issues that some of the developers have caused on the restructuring of his team, those delays were just legitimate delays. They had stuff they needed to work through, and those segments of work that needed to get done took a little bit longer than normal. But what he did say is he, now seeing those delays, was able to go on and keep building and working and improving some of the other stuff that he probably wouldn't have had time for if that was already ready to get launched. So it ended up being a little bit of both. Those contracts, those specific delays were completely legitimate, and it's just because the team wasn't running 100% at that point. But also, he knew those delays were going on. He knew that stuff wouldn't be quite ready, so he kept building. And kudos to him. Hopefully he didn't take that question the wrong way. Because for me, all of a sudden, we washed out a bunch of weak hands. And I think that was actually really important. People really showed their true colors over the last few months. And I don't think I would have saw who some people really are if that hadn't happened. So washing out the weak hands was a really good thing. And for me, and I know for you guys, we were able to accumulate a lot more assets at a much cheaper price than we would have been able to before. So because I already had a long-term horizon on this, for me, it worked out really well. And it also looks like the timing is going to work out perfectly. The market should bottom in the next 4 to 6 weeks, give or take a month. That's just based on general technical analysis and what all the market pros think. And frankly, I agree with them. Probably going to see a late October, November bottom, and then everything's going to come rallying back, and that will help Drip a lot and the animal farm, because all the marketing is going to go out, and as everything's swinging back up, we'll take advantage of that big old boost in price. Market sentiment will change, and everyone's going to go, whoa, what's this new cool platform in DeFi, and how do I get in? They're also going to be seeing dogs games, pigs games, new UIs, landing pages, marketing, version 2 of this, layer 2 of that. Scratchy's going to come out. I mean, this stuff is going to be super major, and it's going to happen at the right time. So hopefully Forex didn't think I was trying to pin him in a bad spot in that question, because I know he's real frustrated with his team for causing the delays. I know it looks bad on him, and so he's just, he's frustrated that it's taken this long. And that's the name of the game when you have a team, man. Everyone's not going to be as motivated as you. They're not going to be killing it like you are. So when you put tasks in the hands of other people, inevitably some of that stuff's going to go wrong. And like he said, the dev that caused that issue, he's a really nice guy. He just wasn't super motivated to knock it out. He didn't get the work done. And so Forex had to let him go. So completely understandable. The moral of the story is he wasn't really intentionally trying to time the market, but by some form of serendipity, he did. And we, as the investors, are going to be the benefactors of that. So to me, it just worked out really good. And again, I'm excited. Weak hands are out. We know who people really are. I picked up additional assets for super cheap that I probably wouldn't have been able to buy otherwise. And this thing's about to take off. So I was super excited about that. We did talk a little bit about his team. So I asked him, hey, are we going to get to meet these guys soon? Now, I have actually spoken with them a little bit, and probably anybody who's done a recent AMA, they're the ones who reached out to me to set it all up. Very nice team of go-getters. They're super solid. So I was wondering at what point Forex will let the general population and the community know who they are and what they're all about. And he let us know that the CMO marketing firm, he's actually got 3 marketing firms that he's using right now. They're all working super hard in the background. So they don't have a lot of time to be on the front end. I did ask him if there's going to be a time where they come on the calls and like give the marketing report. And I think he may have misinterpreted that just a little bit. He said, no, I'm always going to be this front facing thing. Forex likes to feel like he's connected to the community. He always wants to be the mouthpiece of Drip and Animal Farm. And I agree with that completely. What I was actually saying is like, hey, in the middle of his calls, if he comes out to do the AMA and he gives all the full spiel and then you get to that marketing segment, if his CMO or somebody would jump on and say, okay, here's what we did for marketing the last couple weeks. So that was really more my question. Right out the gate, he kind of negated that and said, no, I want to be the face. But he also did say that it's up to his team if they would ever want to come out and speak publicly. So there is actually a chance, I think in the future, that if the CMO wants to come out and not be anonymous, that we could get marketing updates from them too. And frankly, that's what I like to see. I like to see Forex handle 90% of that call. But just like in a normal business meeting, then you go to the marketing team and they give their report. So they can say, hey, we spent $35,000 last month. We got this many onboarded users. We're getting a fantastic click-through rate on these couple ads. Thank you guys for supporting this. Just give some of the breakdown that's more in their world and focus. And Forex can focus on all the higher level stuff and the really detailed stuff that no one understands but him, really. So I thought that was cool. We got, a little bit of a mix of answer there. Sorry if I'm rolling that out in a weird way. But I think if you listen to the actual AMA and what he says, you'll agree. He wants to be the mouthpiece. He's not going anywhere for sure, and we don't want him to. I think he's good in that role. But he's also open down the road. If his team wants to be public about stuff, then they can do that. He said they're just busy working behind the scenes. So it makes perfect sense that we haven't heard from him yet. They have a lot of work to do. Next up is Forex's Bhack. So that stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. I think there's some books on it, but it's a pretty popular concept. It's basically the goal that you have that's like a little ways out. It's attainable, but it's a pretty good stretch goal. Normally it takes people a couple years to reach. Forex's goal in this case is just to be the #1 dApp on the Binance Smart Chain. So my question was, if that's his goal, how can he see us getting there? How long is it going to take? Those type of details. So he laid that out pretty well about what would have to happen for us to end up taking that #1 spot. He said Drip could do it itself, but he said he's not as concerned about getting in the #1 spot. He at least wants to be in the #2, 3, 4 spot. He wants all of the pieces of the ecosystem. So Animal Farm, Drip, Scratchy, all that stuff. He wants those in the top few spots. So cumulatively, together, in the aggregate, Forex ecosystem products are by far the biggest on the Binance Smart Chain. And as far as timelines, he said that as long as everything rolls smoothly, we could easily get this done by the end of 2023. So that I thought was some major alpha. I think he's excited about it, and hopefully he appreciated my little graphic here that I made. Let me move this over. See this little graphic that I made where Forex clearly ripped the head off the PancakeSwap bunny, because as you guys know, PancakeSwap is #1 on the Binance Smart Chain. So if we were to overcome them, we'd be on the top of the world. From then we moved on to Q&A. We didn't have a ton of time. When I talked to Forex, he's like, I got like an hour and a half in the beginning before we started the call. And then of course these things always go 2.5 hours. So I felt a little bad, but I did want to get as many questions out as possible. So I was able to ask a few questions. First off, I asked him about the fertilizer bonus and the drip garden, those 3 categories that just doesn't make sense to anybody. And he very clearly laid those out. I won't try to do that here for you. You can find that in the original AMA, but he laid it out. It has everything to do with the rate of decay and your compounding and how all those metrics work together. Next, I thought this was a really good question. I know he had been working on it, so I was curious. I asked him if there was any word back on the fiat onboarding applications, if that was still planned for later this year, just to try to get some details. And he said 100% fiat onboarding is moving forward. And if you guys don't know what that is, a fiat on-ramp allows someone to buy the native asset just by putting in like a credit or debit card. So you've seen some of these maybe on other sites if you're familiar with crypto, like MoonPay. Basically, you put in your debit card, they take their 2.99% fee or whatever. You're able to make the purchase right there and then deposit the drip in the faucet or buy the pigs or whatever. So that's coming in the future, and that will help a lot. Now, there's been some concerns about being able to get that because you got a KYC, and of course Forex doesn't KYC for anything, but he said that's a non-issue. One, as we know, he can hire someone on the team that can KYC for him, so that's not a huge deal. But he said worst case scenario, and I thought this was super cool. Worst case scenario, he can just buy another token that has failed, like from last year that had approved fiat on-ramp capabilities, use their token as like an intermediary, which would essentially allow us to use their fiat onboarding. Their tokens would be the middleman, and then drip or pigs or whatever would pop out the other side. So I thought that was absolutely amazing. It's an amazing concept. I said, I had no idea that you could do that. And he, of course, said, that's because nobody's doing it. Nobody's done it yet. It's just an idea that I had, and I know we could make it happen. So good alpha from Forex. No matter what, we're going to get a fiat on-ramp. I didn't have time in this one to ask him about the fiat off-ramp, but we'll get to that in a later AMA. At some point in this questioning, we got off track a little bit and started talking about insurance, stuff he wants to do in the future. And I always assumed that insurance was like insuring wallets. So as a person, I could pay, a certain percentage and then my wallet would be protected. But I started thinking the other day, well, then people could just scam it and accidentally leak their wallet, drain the account, send it off to another one, then claim the insurance and basically commit insurance fraud in the DeFi space. But I was actually wrong in thinking about that. Forex is thinking about actually insuring the platform, just like the FDIC insures banks. So I don't know exactly how that would work, but Forex's team or whatever team he sets up undoubtedly would audit their contracts and make sure everything looks good before they actually committed to providing insurance for them. Then once they felt like everything is solid, they would insure them for whatever percentage of the liquidity. And then if something happened, there was some sort of issue or hacker or bot or whatever that caused a problem, then this Forex insurance would pay them back. So I think it's genius because Forex always says, hey man, I looked at the contract, just like he did with elephant money. And I saw there was a flaw right away and I knew you needed to fix it. So if it's that easy for him, that's a genius idea because he can look at these contracts and say, you've got issues here, or no, this actually looks really solid. We're willing to insure you. So long term, I thought that's a mind-blowing concept and I think it'll work really well. And I know that's sometime next year, but we did get that question answered. So finally, I wanted to wrap it up. He was hungry and tired, man. I just wanted to get a last question out and let him go because I really appreciated his time up to that point. I know he stayed for an extra hour on the channel. So I asked him the question that everybody wants to get answered. I told him, hey, you've got some capital, say maybe 10K in capital. You're an outside investor, right? He's not Forex. He's just a general investor like us. He understands how the animal farm ecosystem works. Where would he put that capital? And he laid it out really clearly and really simple, and it was a relatively short and concise answer. And what he said was, if he was putting money in, his obvious choice is buying dogs and putting them in the single asset staking pool that auto compounds, and buying pigs and putting them in the pig pen. Now the answers for that should be pretty clear by now, because the pigs in the pig pen will earn you BUSD. That's your ownership of the farm. And the dogs in the auto compounding dog pound will earn you BNB. What those two investment selections allow you to do is hold the assets, get paid from the assets, but never have to sell the underlying asset. And we covered those concepts, those rich people concepts, several times during the AMA. Rich people buy assets, they find a way to make passive income from those assets, and they never sell the underlying asset, causing a large taxable event. A lot of people are still having trouble with the animal farm and this process and owning assets. Just think about it in the most simple terms. As a rich person, you go out and you buy a rental property. You hold that property, hopefully forever, and you collect the rent, so you're getting the dividends. Now, if I needed a lump sum of money as this rich person, I could either do the dumb thing and sell the actual asset and take that massive capital gains tax hit, or I can borrow against my asset, so like a home equity line of credit or a refinance. That allows me to pull money out of that investment or out of that asset as debt, which is not taxable. I can then take the money that I pulled out, go buy another rental property, and now I'm getting income from 2 rental properties, and now I own 2 assets, which I will never sell. So there is a bunch of nice tidbits and nice nuggets of investor mindset in that AMA. So again, if you have a chance to watch it and you haven't already, throw it on 1.5 speed and cruise through it. Because I think there's a lot of important lessons that if you're an investor and you want to be a better investor, you need to hear. So anyway, guys, hopefully you liked the AMA. Of course, I did my best. Forex did say a couple times that we should do another one in a couple weeks. So if that happens, I'll gear up some different questions. It'll probably be even more positive because all the stuff that's going on right now is just super amazing, super bullish, and we have so much to look forward to. So I think that'll be really awesome, and it'll honestly probably even be an easier AMA to conduct than this one. So again, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Happy investing.